Scadrial is a very unique planet within the wider Cosmere, and in today's Cosmere 101 video, I'd like to take a deeper look at it in order to get a better understanding of this strange world. It's been a while since I've done any Cosmere 101 videos, so this definitely feels like a good return to form. Now, if you're new to the Cosmere, you may not know exactly what Scadrial is. Scadrial, as I mentioned a moment ago, is a planet within the Cosmere where a certain series is set. That certain series is, of course, the Mistborn series. Now, this video will be split into two parts. The first will deal with the Scadrial of Era 1 and will be completely spoiler free for any of those who have yet to read those books. The second half, however, will deal with the Scadrial of Era 2, which takes place hundreds of years after Era 1. So naturally there will be Era 1 spoilers within that section of the video, though I will avoid any Era 2 spoilers in that section. So if you have yet to read any Mistborn books, you may want to skip the Era 2 section of the video. If you've read Era 1 but not Era 2, you're good for the whole video. I do try to keep the Cosmere 101 series spoiler free, but unfortunately there are times where it can't be completely avoided, so I try to make compromises where I can. But with all of that said and out of the way, we have a lot of ground to cover and I'm trying to keep the length of this video reasonable. So without further ado, let's jump right into the world of Scadrial. Now, before we get into the rest of the video, I just wanted to let you guys know that on this channel we regularly discuss all things Cosmere. So if that's the kind of content you're interested in, I would highly recommend subscribing if you haven't yet. It's easy, free, and remains the best way for you to catch regular Cosmere focused content and when it comes out. I'm also aiming for the enormous goal of hitting 10,000 subscribers by my birthday this coming June. Helping me achieve this goal would be extremely awesome of you, and if you've already subscribed, I'd like to personally thank you for being such an amazing human being. Anyway, let's get back to the video. The First Era. The Scadrial of the First Era is a very oppressive and dark place. The most prominent feature of this first era is the existence of the Final Empire. The Final Empire was an empire that spanned most, if not all, of civilized society. A single unifying empire under the control of a single immortal tyrant of an emperor. The emperor, known within the Final Empire simply as the Lord Ruler, unified all of the kingdoms on Scadrial under his oppressive thumb. Not much is known about Scadrial society prior to the Lord Ruler's centuries-long campaign. We know that there were many kingdoms, peoples, religions, and factions all vying for control and influence. Then, after a magical event, the Lord Ruler rose to power and remade the world. Gigantic volcanoes spewing plumes of smoke and ash, known locally as ash mounts, erupted from the earth. Strange creatures named mist wraiths started roaming the land, and an army of gigantic humanoid creatures called Kolos appeared to do the bidding of the Lord Ruler. In addition to these changes on the planet, there were changes within the people as well. A new form of magic called allomancy started to manifest within the population. Most people were made shorter, tougher, with a higher fertility rate than before. These became the worker or slave class of the empire, the Scar. Some chosen few became slightly taller, more refined, more intelligent, and with a lower fertility rate than before. These became the nobility of the empire. And of course, micro-changes within the people and all life on the planet allowed them the ability to live and breathe in an ash-covered world. And naturally, one cannot forget one of Scadrial's most prominent features. A thick supernatural mist that appears every night, too thick to see beyond a couple of feet, yet refusing to enter the dwellings of humans. This mist is a prominent feature of Scadrial and a large influence on the superstitions and beliefs of the people. Now this should give you a good idea of the planet's state within the First Era. Next we'll be going into some details around the shards and investiture of the planet. Unlike prior episodes, however, there will be some slight spoilers for the world building here. Mistborn's world building is slowly revealed as the plot progresses through the 3 books, as the world building ties in to some mysteries and oddities within the main plot. I will not be going into any potential plot spoilers though, and I will only be discussing world building details. I give this warning for those who would prefer to read the books for those details instead, but know that I won't be explaining anything about the plot or how events unfold, so you will not be spoiled on the story itself. So now that we've established that, let's dive into the details of this planet's shards and investiture. The planet of Scadrial was actually created by two shards, Preservation and Ruin. By combining the intent of both shards, Leras, Preservation's vessel, and Ati, Ruin's vessel, were able to create a world filled with people with a mutual understanding between one another. By the names, you can probably already guess at the intents of each shard. Through the combination of these intents and the associated investiture, the planet of Scadrial actually has three different yet related magic systems within it. The most well-known form of investiture on Scadrial is Allomancy. Allomancy is the investiture purely made of Preservation's power and intent. Allomancy allows the Allomancer to swallow a certain type of metal. Through that metal, the Allomancer will be able to access a form of Preservation's power depending on the type of metal that was swallowed. And as the metal is burned away through use, the more an Allomancer swallows of a given metal, the more power they can access, though this does have its limitations. I did a whole video on the three metallic arts, as they are known, a while back, so check it out if you'd like more details on this. Then we have another magic system that is purely based on the investiture and intent of Ruin's power. This metallic art is called Hemalurgy and involves the use of a metal spike that you drive into the body. Hemalurgy doesn't grant power. Instead, it allows you to steal the power of others. So you can use a hemalurgic spike to steal the allomantic ability of an allomancer and then grant yourself that power by piercing yourself with the same spike. Unfortunately, this will cause the death of the allomancer and will cause irreparable damage to your spirit web, which is why the use of hemalurgy is incredibly taboo and secretive. The Lord Ruler, however, uses this magic within his Steel Inquisitors as it allows them to be more powerful than any allomancer that they may face. The third and final form of investiture on Scadrial is the final metallic art known as Feruchemy. Feruchemy is older than Allomancy and likely older than Hemalurgy as well, since it seems the Lord Ruler introduced that to the world. Feruchemy is the combination of both Preservation and Ruin's power, where Allomancy was end positive, meaning there is power being added, and Hemalurgy is end negative, meaning power is being taken. Feruchemy is end neutral. In Feruchemy, no power is created or lost. Instead, one stores power in the form of different attributes within different kinds of metal. It can then be drawn on for later use, so you could, theoretically, store strength within pewter and become very frail and weak while you do so. But later you can draw on that strength, making your muscles grow and doubling your strength until it runs out. You can even draw it out faster or slower to affect the amount of strength you get and how long it takes to run out. As you can see, it's the combination of shards that allows these magic systems to coexist in some kind of harmony with one another. Now, there's not much that I can talk about further without getting into spoilers, so that's where we'll end this section covering the first era. The next section of this video will be discussing the second era of Scadrial and any changes that may have occurred. No details of Era 2 story will be discussed, but there will be full Era 1 spoilers. Thus, if you've read Era 1, you're fine to continue, even if you haven't read Era 2 yet. If you haven't read or finished Era 1 yet, then this is your warning to tune out or suffer spoilery consequences. The Second Era. The second era of Scadrial is very different from the first. Drastically different actually, but to understand the Scadrial of the second era we must first look at how and why things changed at the end of the first. At the end of the first era, the vessels of both Ruin and Preservation died, leaving the power of the shards without any direction or control. Sazed, a Terraceman steward and Feruchemist, seized both shards and became the new vessel of both. The shards melded and became a single shard known as Harmony, which is also what Sazed is now known by. During Sazed's ascension to godhood, he essentially undid all the work that the Lord Ruler did on the planet when he briefly held Preservation's power. The ash mounts are no longer around, the sky is clear of smoke and clouds, and the world is lush and green once more. Even the mists now only come on the occasional evening instead of every night like it once did. But beyond just the physical appearance of the planet and its distance from the sun, Harmony also changed things within the inhabitants of the planet. Funnily enough, Harmony changed the Kolos from a hemalurgic construction into a breeding race that now procreates like humans do. In fact, Harmony seems to have tried to wipe as many examples and instances of hemalurgy from the planet, but it couldn't actually remove the magic system itself, as it is part of the Shard's intent and investiture. But there are no more Steel Inquisitors walking around now, and no new Kandra are being made either. There are, however, changes within the expressions of investiture on Scadrial as well. Firstly, it seems that Allomancy has been altered to where no full Mistborn are around anymore, and only Mistings exist. Additionally, and it's not 100% clear whether or not this is a direct change from Harmony or just because the Terrace people have been breeding with non-Terrace people a lot more, but there are no full ferrochemists around either. Now, there are ferrochemical equivalents to Mistings called Ferrings, which means they can only use one metal to store attributes. Thus, some Ferrings can only store weight, and some can only store eyesight, and so on. However, due to the interbreeding between Allomancers and Ferrochemists, you will find many people who are both. These are called twin-born, and they have both one allomantic ability and one ferrochemical ability. So, as you can see, the interplay between the different metallic arts have definitely been changed and shaken up. There's less of a strict divide between them and more of a melding between them, which definitely matches the nature of Harmony itself. And now that the Final Empire no longer exists, the society of this world is also very different. The Final Empire kept society and the world in a kind of stasis, where certain advancements just couldn't happen. Things were kept at a constant in terms of society and technology, but since the fall of the Empire and the remaking of the world, things have rapidly started advancing. Long gone are the days of castles, swords, and candles. We now enter into a society very reminiscent of Victorian England on Earth. We have firearms, manners, and even some use of the occasional electric light bulb. Allomancers are no longer either the elite of society or hunted down for their illegitimate heritage. Ferrochemists are no longer hunted down to extinction or hiding within the confines of a servant class. Those with allomantic or ferrochemical abilities, or even both, now serve roles within society that utilize their skills. Messengers and couriers who can steel push are used due to the speed they can attain. Rioters or soothers even set up seedy dens where people can pay to have their emotions rioted or soothed, almost akin to a barely legal drug den. On almost all levels, society has undergone many drastic changes. Scadrial is a planet that has changed a lot since our first look at it in the Final Empire, and I believe we'll be seeing a lot more change on the planet as the books and the eras progress over time. Anyway, that has been it from me for today, guys. Thank you very much for watching. My name has been Raven, and I will see you all next time. Take care, everybody.